Good afternoon. Here we are again. This is day number 10.
10.
I think. There's really. I'll blend into one now. We've just been to see Jane Eyre, and this was on the recommendation of one of our friends at Space, because he had puppets for a change. Do you want to do the blurb? I'm sure some of you will already know the story of Jane Eyre, but
Charlotte Bronte's tale of a young woman's courageous fight through injustice and hardship was a revolution in literary fiction. It is a story that continues to inspire and enthrall over 150 years after its publication. Blue Orange Arts brings this timeless story to the stage, commencing with Jane's arrival at Thornfield Hall. We glimpse Jane's difficult past and watch her unwittingly fall in love with Edward Rochester, the master of the house. Rochester eventually proposes to Jane, but the complexities of his past ensure that Jane's struggles are far from over.
And if you didn't know the plot of Jane Eyre, they've just given me it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I suppose most people, well, some people will have seen Jane Eyre, but anyway. And they skipped all of her upbringing completely, which is
at Lowfield School.
The school, which is quite traumatic for her.
Understandably, actually. I think, obviously the production, I think it was 50 minutes, so there is an assumption that the majority of people know the plot, or they know the story, and that 50 minutes you can't do the whole of Jane Eyre unless you're going to cut out bits.
Which is fair enough.
That goes without saying. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of it?
I mean, I liked it. I thought I liked the fact that they did a shortened version. I think that works really well for a Fringe production. I liked I liked the bits of the story that they chose to use. I thought that the bit with St John Rivers at the end was maybe slightly confusing initially, but then you sort of got the idea. Well, if you didn't know the story,
I did wonder, because obviously we know it quite well, having seen a National Theatre production over lockdown, so it was reasonably fresh in my mind, which was obviously last year. And I wasn't comparing it to that because it's a Fringe production. I did feel it was a bit all over the place in places, and I did struggle with the multiple characters. I really I liked Jane. I thought the guy playing the narrator was an interesting device.
I like that.
But when the guy playing Rochester became the narrator, it didn't work for me, and I don't quite know how you get around that. You either need an extra person, because there is only 4 people in the whole cast. We've got Pilot the dog, which is a puppet, and we've got Adele, who is also a puppet.
Yeah.
And I quite like the puppets. The puppet was a nice idea.
Yeah. I didn't have a problem with the narrator changing, because basically whoever had the book was the narrator, and I did like the fact that it was it was a male voice.
I didn't at the first, but I thought, oh, actually he's reading Jane's thoughts and Jane's reading the book, but why does it have to be a male? Because she's female, and I did struggle with that for a bit. Although I liked his voice, and he had a sort of commanding voice. Bits of it I thought were a bit shouty.
The one scene that I particularly didn't like, sorry, I'm having, I think a spider is just crawling all over my arm, was the scene where Jane misinterprets what's happening. It's just prior to that sort of Rochester declaring his love for her, and she misinterpreted. She thought that he thought of her as a lowly person, that somebody that just wasn't worth it, etc., etc. And she got very angry. Well, that characterisation of Jane at that point, I didn't like. That didn't suit my idea of Jane. She is somebody who knows her own mind, but I don't think when she's angry, for her to shout and be so angry, it just, that wasn't the character of Jane Eyre for me. That was the only scene that was wrong for me.
The scene, well, the bit where she first declares her love for Rochester, and I don't know if that's the same scene. I can't remember that being the particularly angry scene. I thought that was completely unbelievable, and at that point in time didn't care about their relationship. Having said that, at the end, when after what happens to Rochester and the burning of the house, and that she does care for him, I did find that believable. But at the earlier point, it didn't really fit. It didn't work for me.
I mean, it's difficult because you're working under a shortened time frame anyway.
You've got people playing multiple characters,
which I thought worked very well for me.
I thought it could. I mean, we've seen things where I've seen one-man shows where one person plays multiple characters, and it's been absolutely brilliant. Some of those characters didn't really work for me. Just change, by putting a bonnet on or a hat doesn't make that person.
Oh, I thought that was fine.
Yeah, sorry about that. We just got moved from our little stairwell stroke outside the disabled loo. We've been told it's a fire hazard, which is quite understandable. So
we've been told we can use
the theatre, so we've just come into here.
Yeah.
Like I say, we're also struggling to remember exactly what we were saying.
I think we talked about you weren't keen on the multiple characters.
No, I wasn't. Yes, I'd said that. Obviously, we've seen productions where even one person doing lots of characters will work, but it didn't really work for me. Luckily, Jane was the same person all the way through, which was fine, and I think she needed to be. But the people around her, the actors around her, that didn't really work for me.
Oh gosh, no, I really, I was quite happy. So it definitely wasn't a production with puppets, but but it was very clever. The fact that Adele obviously is a main character in the book, and
that did work very well.
That worked very well.
And Pilot the dog was good.
Yeah. I thought the individual scenes were reenacted, and like I said before, I think the scenes that they chose to actually put into the production worked, apart from when she gets involved with the rivers. That was fine eventually, but it was a little bit confusing, maybe.
I in my heart of hearts, and not having had to put one of these things together, and knowing how complex the story of Jane Eyre is, it almost felt like less is more, and that's not about the actors, but less scenes. But I don't quite know how you do that.
No.
I did feel it was disjointed. It didn't work for me. I enjoyed bits of it. But no, on the whole, it wasn't my thing.
I personally didn't think there were any superfluous scenes. I liked the characterisation by the actors, and certainly that, like you mentioned earlier, that last scene where you really did feel for Jane and Rochester, that was nicely done.
It was nicely done. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I clearly liked it less than you.
Yeah,
and it wasn't that we were expecting loads of puppets. We didn't quite know what to expect, and we had said that we wanted to do. We hoped that they would do something different with it, and they did that. They did fit that brief. Really, for me, I just don't think it worked, and I do think it would be very confusing if you didn't know the story at all.
Yes, I agree with you.
So if you haven't seen it for like 20 years, or you can't quite remember the story of Jane Eyre, then
I mean, it was a straight retelling of the story.
It was really,
obviously, with selected. It was a shortened version, but it still was done as a fairly straight version, which is almost, counterintuitive.
Yeah, and I don't think they really nailed the fact that prior to when this version started, that Jane had such a hard life. I don't think that really came across. Do you?
It got referenced quite a number of times. So, and I agree with cutting that out, because that would have, in a way, negated the fact that they wanted to do a shortened version.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
It's on until the 14th of August, so there's 3 more shows. Tickets are available. It's at the Space at Surgeons Hall in the Bevan Theatre at 12:05 each day. So stars.
I think I'm going to go for a 3.
Well, I'm going to go for a 2.
Okay.
I didn't really.
Right, which makes it a 3.
It didn't really do it for me.
Okay.
So thanks so much for watching. Next time we're seeing some comedy with Adele. Lost my phone actually. Adele Cliff, which will be later on this afternoon. So we'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.